Nobody's hands are clean. So don't be looking for a white hat here. Nobody has one on. Every nation's doing what it thinks it can for its own interest. And Israel has the definite power advantage over everybody in the Middle East, and that's why they were able to do this here. But we have to look out for our interests first, too, not Israel's. I mean, whether you're talking about our good allies like Germany or UK or Canada or Israel, our interests come before all of those, as it should be, as every one of their interests come before theirs. Before them too. They're going to go with their own national interests first. No one should be embarrassed about saying we're going to look out for our national interests first. And if you, our historic good friend, want to go down a war path that could get our people killed, we're out. We're out. And unfortunately, I gave President Trump credit for what he did so far, but he doesn't deserve credit for getting himself into this sticky situation here to where there was no way out, or else somebody was going to attack. Well, in a certain sense, Israel took him off the hot seat there, because now he didn't have to make that choice, because Israel has now made it for him. It remains to be seen until, look, and let me be clear on this, all this stuff is happening now within hours, and some of it may still be going on right now. So until the sun comes up and we get a better idea of what's going on, we don't know how much damage has been done, how far the Iranian nuclear facilities may have been damaged, how far it may have set the program back. We don't know any of that stuff yet right now. So all this is dynamic and at play. And you see that map there that Gary's throwing up there. That's where a lot of these facilities are. We don't even know how many for sure have been hit. So once we get more information on that, we'll do it. Let me go back to I mentioned earlier one of the IDF spokesmen. So listen to this comment here and compare it to what we showed you Netanyahu said at the top of the show.
You've been saying that the Iranians are very close to acquiring a nuclear weapon for years. Was there something specific, a specific piece of intelligence that you received that said this is it?
Yes, of course. We've been studying this. Israeli intelligence has been focused on this for years, and the assumption is that Iran is incredibly close to having 15 nuclear warheads. We know that they have the ballistic missiles. We have to remember, Iran, after October 7th, they threatened to strike Israel. They have ballistic missiles that also, even without a nuclear warhead, pose an existential threat to Israel. They said they were going to use them, and as we know, twice they shot a barrage of ballistic missiles. Can we imagine more than 1,000 ballistic missiles rained down on Israel? If it wasn't for our missile defense capabilities, this country would have already been destroyed. And we have a long history. We know when an enemy tells you they're going to destroy you, if you don't believe them, we don't want to have another Holocaust in our hands. And that is why, now that we have the ability, we carried out this preemptive strike.
Okay, let's start from right off the top. He was asked point blank, do you have intelligence that said this was something imminent? He said, yes, of course we do. We've been taking this for years. And then he said, I don't know if this was a slip of the tongue, but he said, and then the assumption is that they had enough for 15 warheads. Okay, Netanyahu said there were 9. He's saying that there were 15. He's claiming that there was hard intelligence, but then he said their assumption is that they were getting ready to make these nuclear warheads. You can't bomb somebody on an assumption. What that means is a guess. And what that really means is we don't really care what we find there. We want to attack these guys. That's what you need to understand here. Again, if this makes some people mad, I'm sorry about that, but we are unintimidated and uncompromised. This is the truth, folks. The evidence is overwhelming that this is the case here. President Trump has been trying to find any kind of negotiated settlement that he could, or at least he was getting close to it. And listen, there were also Trump, one of the reasons he said that earlier today was they were in the process of negotiations. There were planned talks with Steve Witkoff, I think in Tehran, and certainly with the Iranian regime, on this weekend, Saturday. They were supposed to meet together on Saturday, or maybe Saturday or Sunday. There was a plan in place. Well, that's certainly gone now. So now diplomacy's out the window, as everybody's going to wait to see what Iran does in retaliation here. But he mentioned there, number one, he said, there were 1,000 missiles flying against Iran, from Iran against us last year. There weren't. There were a number of drones that were fired, and then there was a handful of missiles that were fired, some of which got through. And he said, only our Iron Dome saved us. That's not true either, because most of those were out in the middle of the desert. They didn't do anything, and some of them actually did hit, went right through the Iron Dome as a sign that we can penetrate your air defense if we want to. That message apparently fell on deaf ears, or at least they don't believe it. I don't know which. We're probably going to find out here in the next day or two. We'll see how that works out. But why? Why did Iran do that? Because he said all these missiles came flying at us and we have to act. Why did that happen? Well, the first batch came after you blew up their embassy in another country, and the second one came after you assassinated one of their invited guests to their presidential inauguration. Yes, the guy was from Hamas and somebody you didn't like. That doesn't give you the right to assassinate somebody in the capital city of another country. Do you want to set as a precedent that, yes, anybody who wants to assassinate somebody in Jerusalem when they're having some big festival because they don't like somebody's there, free to do it. We set the precedent. Or during the presidential in the United States inauguration, we want somebody from Mexico doesn't like somebody that's in the crowd there, or somebody from Argentina or something, and they assassinate somebody in Washington, D.C. Are you going to say, that's unfortunate, but, we said it's cool for Israel, so it's what's good for Israel is good for everybody else. You see that's obvious. It's never going to work like that. We'll never tolerate that. But folks all over the world see this gross double standard, and it's not cost-free. This stuff costs us our reputation, our credibility, our ability to influence people in a positive direction, our ability to restrain people from doing things that are bad or encouraging them to do something that's good. When they see that us and our allies are driven purely by power dynamics, right and wrong don't even enter the equation, only words are spoken to give cover to the power dynamics. That works on domestic audiences because they like to hear that. It doesn't work on international audiences. It doesn't work on potential adversaries of ours. They look at us with then more contempt, anger, and hatred. And that undermines our interest around the world. And if you work away and fray that fabric enough, one day, folks, that fabric could tear or break on a day you need it to be in place. And that's one of the things I worry about. I'm always looking deep on this, and I worry about what's the ramifications of these things are. Right now, we have the power dynamics. Israel has them. They can continue to do what they want. We'll see how much longer that lasts, though, because as I've been saying, Iran has a lot of capacity. They can hurt Israel, and they can hurt them bad if they choose to use their weapons. And I'm curious as to what their discussions are going to be inside Tehran, because they saw what happened with the alleged 150,000 rockets and missiles that Hezbollah had. They never used them, and then Nasrallah was assassinated and blown up in Beirut. They never used them. Israel never paid a price for that. I would wager that there's going to be those in Tehran that say, we can't go down that path anymore. There's no reason to restrain because it'll just invite more attacks. I suspect that we're going to get more of them out of this. Now, that was the Israeli spokesman. You would expect him to say that. Well, unfortunately, there's those in the United States, as I mentioned earlier, who are big cheerleaders of this. And one of the first ones, no surprise here, former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo.
They had little option. The time was running out. A nuclear conflict in the region would have been devastating, not only for the Israelis, but for American interests, for the Gulf Arab states as well. The last few days, there's been this reporting that they might do this. I'm sure the Iranians were preparing, and so I think the Israelis said, it's go time. We must do this to protect the sovereign nation of Israel. It's a righteous strike that they have taken. It's going to take them days to actually accomplish the mission of deterring this program and setting this program back by years. I'm confident that they can do that. And all nations who have been attacked by Iran, including the Americans, has an obligation to get this right and provide whatever assistance Israel needs so that it can conduct the attacks to complete this mission and put their nuclear weapons program back decades, if not forever.
No. We do not have an obligation to give Israel everything it needs to go take on a war that we didn't want. Our president said that's not something that's in our interest, and they're trying to find a negotiated way out of it. And whether he did a good job with the negotiations or not, that is right. It is not our fight. The Iranian regime has been in power since 1979. They have been saying this, chanting death to Israel, death to America, whatever, is like a pejorative. It's an insult to us. They obviously have never made any attempt to make good on it. And this idea that if they even, let's just look at this for a minute, if they even got nuclear weapons, the claim is that they would immediately use them. I've shown several sound bites for many senior Israeli and American officials, past and current at the time. they've said that. That is nonsense. Everything that you can see, measure, and observe of the Iranian regime is they want to live. They want to preserve their power. The last thing they're going to do is, having stayed in power since 1979, built up all this capabilities that they have, get a nuclear bomb and then commit suicide with it. Because that's what would happen. If they used it the way Israel claims, then it would be instant suicide. Israel by itself, without any help from America, has allegedly somewhere between 1 and 200 nuclear weapons of their own. So they would be able to pulverize anything that Iran does, and Iran is fully aware of that. They know that for sure. Ergo, they would never use it. So their actions show they would not use a nuclear weapon. And many people have been surprised that they haven't done the testing up to this point, or they haven't gone over that threshold in order to have a deterrent to hold Israel at bay. Because if they had a nuclear weapon, then these probably wouldn't have been hit like this, because they would have had a nuclear return. So my biggest concern about this whole thing, which I've been talking about for over a year, is that if we claim to want to prevent them from having a nuclear weapon, this is the best way to push them to get one. Now then, you've taken away any reason they have to withhold anything, because now in the aftermath of this, it's very unlikely that the IAEA inspectors, who had limited access but they still had it, is going to have it anymore. I suspect strongly they'll all be kicked out, and now we'll have no eyes. We'll have no inside information at all about what they're doing. And we don't know how much of this their capacity, nuclear making capacity, has been damaged or destroyed by this. But we also have to expect that probably in some of these very deep underground bunkers, they probably had all kinds of things stored there in just such a case as this. That if it was me anyway, just rationally speaking, and I knew the threat from outside, I would have made sure that my underground bunkers were capable of getting over that last hurdle and developing a bomb in the event that I got hit, so that if they did hit me, they wouldn't be able to get to that part. We'll see whether Iran did that or not. We'll see whether the assassination of these scientists, we'll see what that had to do. I don't know, but that is my biggest concern, absolutely biggest concern, because if all of a sudden one of these days we're all sitting here just having a normal day, and all of a sudden the Geiger counter starts tickering over here, or we get this evidence of looks like an earthquake in the Middle East, whoops, it's actually got the signature that was an underground nuclear test. Iran is now a member of the nuclear force. Congratulations. Well done, Israel. Thanks for pushing them over that threshold. You claim that you're doing all this stuff like Pompeo just said. It's this righteous act, and it's going to set them back. You just hope it set them back. You don't know that it's going to. We also don't know what they're going to do even with their ballistic missile force here. But, there's some other issues involved here. What is China going to do? So I checked just before we came on the air. So far, there's no official comment from anybody in China. What is Russia going to do? No comment from Russia either. But they are all BRICS members. And it seems unlikely to me that China and Russia, after having brought Iran into the BRICS, are just going to say, bummer, they got blown up, and then take no action here, because then that's going to make them look weak too, even to other BRICS and other members of the global South. I would wager that they're going to do something in return. I don't know what, but it seems pretty unlikely to me that they're just going to shrug their shoulders and say, bummer. So that remains to be seen as well. Maybe they don't do anything overtly, but they certainly could do things covertly, and it just is not in their interest to turn a blind eye. So we'll see where that ends up going as well. You have obviously the issue of retaliation. What is Iran going to do? The idea that they're just going to take this in the teeth and just roll back up and crawl back into a hole and do nothing seems pretty unlikely. And we've shown you, we had Ted Postal on our show after the missile strikes in 2024 that Iran fired in there, and he showed you very graphically that the Iron Dome didn't stop their best ballistic missiles. They can fire them into very prominent targets in Israel, and there's probably nothing they can do. In fact, those images that Gary showed at the top of the show about the Israeli missiles that were going in almost looked indistinguishable from the Iranian missiles that penetrated the Israeli system last year. It really, for a second, I thought that was the replay of the previous one, but you see, those are definitely the new ones from tonight. And then, my second biggest concern is the United States getting sucked into a war. That whatever the retaliation comes in from Iran, if it's something that's really painful and Israel looks to us and says, oh, please help, we can't do it, we're not strong enough. And look at all this damage. And you've got all the Pompeos, the Lindsey Grahams, the Mark Levins, all these folks that are going to be begging and screaming on television and on their social media platform, please come to this. Don't leave our ally there to flap in the wind. They're in a war for their lives. It's existential. They'll throw in the Holocaust. They'll say all kinds of things. And I'm saying, no, Israel has said it's the strongest country in the region, and that it is strong enough to take care of itself. It took this action. It brought this on to itself here, and it has to pay the consequences, because it's not even just a matter of doing the right thing, folks. This is a matter of protecting American national interests. Let me just categorically tell you, I will not sacrifice the life of one American military member that, unfortunately, there are thousands of them in the Middle East that are very vulnerable tonight, if we get sucked into this war. Because if we do, they'll all be in the crosshairs. They'll all be at risk of being attacked. And a great portion of those are defenseless against some of the best Iranian ballistic missiles. Let's don't find out. So that's where we are right here. And I'm going to leave you with this last thing, because it's kind of aggravated me a little bit more than anything else. And that's Benjamin Netanyahu. He made one other statement we didn't show in that first clip. Check this out.
As the Bible teaches us, when someone comes to kill you, rise and act first. This is exactly what Israel has done today. We have risen like lions to defend ourselves. Over 3,000 years ago, Moses gave the people of Israel a message that has steeled their resolve ever since. Be strong and courageous, he said. Today, our strong and courageous soldiers and people stand together to defend ourselves against those who seek our destruction. And by defending ourselves, we defend many others, and we roll back a murderous tyranny. Generations from now, history will record that our generation stood its ground, acted in time, and secured our common future.
Okay, let me just tell you right off the top, I am a Bible-believing Christian. I read my Bible literally every day. I start my day off with it every day. I have never read anything remotely close to, if your enemy's coming to kill you, rise and kill them first. I don't know what Bible he's talking about. If he's talking about something in the Torah or in the Talmud or something, some Israeli text, I don't know. I don't read those. I can't say. But he chose the word Bible. And you know that to target a lot of his commentary are American evangelicals. And I hope that they know their Bible better, because our Bible actually teaches the opposite. It says, do not return evil for evil, but return good for evil. All that kind of stuff. Now, let me be clear. The Bible definitely doesn't teach just roll over and let someone attack you either. It says that's why we have governance. This is the government. It's not for no reason that the government has a sword to defend itself. That's one of the God-given reasons to defend itself. This does not qualify for that, because the Israelis didn't defend themselves from Iran. Iran didn't attack Israel. Iran wasn't preparing to attack Israel. Israel had this war of choice that they have started with Iran. They started it because they were impatient, because they didn't want to wait for diplomacy. They didn't want diplomacy to work. They just wanted to destroy Iran. And now they're trying to use biblical texts to cover it over. And unfortunately, it's going to work for many in America. That makes me sad as a fellow Christian. It's going to make me sad that many people are going to cheer this on, and they're going to cite the Bible and they don't even know what's in it. But that's another story for another night. We'll talk about that. But I think Netanyahu is right about one thing. History will judge this, and this history will look back on this. Not quite in the way that he's thinking, though, because like I warned in the first week of their Israeli attack into Gaza in 2023, I said Netanyahu has put his government on a path to achieve by military power the political objective of bringing peace to Israel, and he will bring the opposite. I said he will not destroy Hamas. He will end up creating even more enemies, and that is precisely what happens. And now he has an issue that, whatever it is, 19, 20 months now going on, and they still have no end in sight. And they still have somewhere around 2 million people that are trapped in like animals in a pen that barely get enough food and water to exist. And you can't keep going down that path much longer. That has not brought peace and prosperity to Israel because it hasn't solved any problems. It has made it profoundly worse. Now then, he has started something here that he does not have the power to finish by himself, unless he's lucky and Iran literally rolls over and just says, okay, I'm sorry, we'll go home and we'll never talk to you again. That seems incredibly unlikely, but that's almost the only case that this can have any kind of a positive. And even then, it's going to be a temporary one. I assure you, the Persian people don't forget. They don't just roll over and say, all right, we're never going to do anything about this. They may bide their time. They may build up their power, but I guarantee you, they will not be silent. Can you imagine? Just work with me on this one. It's 9/11. The United States has just been hit. The Twin Towers have been knocked down. The Pentagon was hit. Plane crash in Pennsylvania. And President Bush comes out and says, well, you know what? I mean, bin Laden did warn us that he said that we should have left the Middle East. So, all right, we're gonna just roll up. We're gonna bring our troops out of Saudi Arabia, bring them back from Kuwait and all that, and we're just gonna live in peace from that. Is that what happened? Or did something rather different happen? So tell me, rationally speaking, with human beings involved, do we think that Iran and the Persian people are going to do what we would never under any circumstances in our existence do? And why do you think that Israel is going to have success? I think the almost certainty, and you can never be totally guaranteed in human affairs, but I think that it is profoundly likely that Netanyahu has just dug more trouble in for his country, because if Iran starts firing back and they just say, all right, it's a war now, we're on. This wasn't just a strike. This is war. And now then they have said, we're going to fight to the death. And we're just going to continue on. We're no longer going to be cowering and we're not going to be measured. We're just into a war. Now what's Israel going to do? That's the big problem here. We'll see how it works out here. But Netanyahu doesn't appear to have a plan B. He doesn't even appear to have a plan A. It seems to me like he just has, let's start it and see what happens. And the likelihood is this is going to be really bad for the Israeli people, because there's probably something pretty bad going to be coming back from Iran pretty soon. We'll have to wait and see how it happens. We just have to hope that the United States does not increase the problem by getting involved in it and getting us involved in a war that we have no business of fighting. That's what you need to understand. Now, we're going to continue to cover this stuff as time goes on naturally. We'll give you updates. I'm sure we'll do another one in the morning. But that's what we know right now, folks. We just wanted to bring it to you because no matter what shakes out and what we find out, the bottom line is America needs to stay out of this war. Thank you very much. We really appreciate you. And by the way, I've noticed a number of you have been very kind and generous and saying good things about us and the work we do, and have been generous with some contributions. Really appreciate that. We notice every one of you. Thank you very much. And we will look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Daniel Davis Deep Dive.